Hi there. We're talking about elevation and depression today. Angles of elevation and depression. Elevation and depression. Elevation and depression. Now, very quickly, this is what an angle of elevation is about, or describes an angle of elevation. If a tree stands here on a level ground and somebody stands here and then looks at the top of a tree, if he looks this way at the top of a tree, I want to use broken lines to show his line of sight at the top of a tree. The horizontal here, the angle which this line of sight, which is a broken line, makes with the horizontal at his neck is called an angle of elevation. So this angle, this is the line of sight, is looking in this direction. To see the top of this tree, you need to raise your head a little, and the angle which the line of sight, this which is a line that has an arrow marked on it here, the angle which that line makes with this horizontal, this one, with this horizontal, is what's called an angle of elevation. Let me call it theta. So I want to say simply that theta above is called an angle of elevation, and that's the angle, that's the angle your line of sight, when you look in a particular direction at a point above your head, makes with the horizontal at your neck. Elevation. It's called an angle of elevation. Now, on the other hand, an angle of depression is the angle. When you talk about an angle of elevation, you're actually talking about somebody maybe standing somebody on the top of a tree. Maybe somebody is here, one person is here on the top of this tree and looking at something on the ground. Maybe looking at a car on the ground. If you stand on the top of this tree and you're looking at this car on the ground, of course, this ground, yes, this ground is a level ground. Now, this is your line of sight, and this is the horizontal at your neck. So the angle which the horizontal at your neck makes with, I think I have to bring this head clearly down. The head is here. So the angle which your line of sight makes with the horizontal at your neck is called an angle of depression. So in this case, of course, this tree stands perpendicular to the ground, and same here, it stands perpendicular to the ground. So in this second case, the angle which your line of sight makes with the horizontal at your neck is called an angle of depression. So how far here, how far above is called an angle of depression. It's called an angle of depression. It's called an angle of depression. An angle of depression. You've got to be careful with this depression, not to make the angle of depression, this angle. It's not this angle, because this is not where there is an inclination between your line of sight and between your line of sight, which is this, and the horizontal at your neck. It is the angle between your line of sight and the horizontal at your neck that represents the angle of depression. So it is not this one, obviously. Now let's go straight to a few examples. Example 1. Example 1. Example 1. Let's see. Find the height of the flagpole. Find the height. Find the height Find the height of the flagpole. Find the height of the flagpole in the diagram, in the figure below. In the figure below. Find the height of a flagpole in the figure below. Now, let's see. This is a figure. Just a sketch, actually. And this is a flagpole. This is a flagpole. Flagpole. And this is the horizontal. This is the horizontal ground. While this is a line of sight. Somebody must be looking at the top of his flagpole from the ground. Now the angle of elevation of the top of the flagpole is 40 degrees. And the distance of the point from which, let me say this is where the person is. The distance from the base of the foot of the flagpole to the point where the person is looking at its top from is 10 meters. Now we want to find the height of the flagpole. That's very, very simple. We can see that this is a right angle triangle. The flagpole stands perpendicular to the ground. So this entire figure is a right angle triangle. And we see that in that right angle triangle, sine 40 degrees is equal to, let me bring a right angle triangle out of that. It's going to look like this. Flagpole, line of sight of a person who's looking at its top, and the horizontal. The angle of elevation is 40 degrees. Let me call the height of the flagpole H, and this is the perpendicular, showing that the flagpole stands perpendicular to the ground, and this is the distance from the foot of the flagpole to the point where the person is looking at its top from. Now, we can see that tan 40 degrees. Tan 40 degrees is equal to opposite over adjacent, which is H over 10. Of course, you remember that tangent is opposite over adjacent. And that means you can do cross multiplication here. 1 times H is H. And that's equal to 10 tan 40 degrees. And then you check your table of tangents for the tangent of 40 degrees. You leave it correct to 4 decimal places. Tan 40 degrees. And that's 0. So that's going to be 10 times 0.8391. 0.8391. And when you multiply by that by 10, you have 8.391. And that's approximately, I want to leave my answer correct to 2 decimal places. 8.39. That's 8.39 meters. Therefore, the height of a flagpole is 8.39 meters. That's the height of a flagpole. Now let's take a second example very, very quickly. Example 2. Example 2. The angle of elevation of the sun, the angle of elevation of the sun. The angle of elevation of the sun is 27 degrees. It's 27 degrees. A man is 180 centimeters tall. How long is his shadow? How long is his shadow? That's a piece of cake. Solution. Now, the angle of elevation of the sun is 27 degrees. A man is 180 centimeters tall. How long is his shadow? That means the man is looking at the sun. If this is a man, he's looking at the sun. We can just describe this as the sun. He's looking at the sun. The angle of elevation of the sun is, the angle of elevation of the sun is, that means if you look at the sun, it's not the man that's looking at the sun actually. The angle of elevation, that means if you look at the sun from a point on the ground, I'm going to describe this as the horizontal, as the vertical. That means if you are looking at the sun from a point on the ground, on a level ground, the angle at which you'll be looking at that sun is going to be 27 degrees. The angle which your line of sight will make with the horizontal at your head is going to be, with the horizontal plane, is 27 degrees. And the man's height, this is the man. This vertical represents the man. So the man's height is 180 centimeters. Now his shadow is going to be, standing perpendicularly to the ground. So his shadow is going to be, this. It's going to be on this side. And that's what this side of a triangle represents. So let me call his shadow X. And the question says, find the length. What is the length of his shadow? So we can say that that's a right angle triangle. In that triangle, tan 27 degrees equals opposite, which is 180, over hypotenuse. Opposite over adjacent, which is X. And that means when you cross multiply, you have X tan 27 degrees equals 180. And that means X equals 180 over tan 27 degrees. Now, this is a trick. Whenever the tangent is a denominator this way, you don't use it directly, because it will be difficult to divide 180 by the tangent of 27, which is going to be 0 point something. So what you do is you multiply 180, which is the numerator, by the tangent of the complement of 27, which is 63 degrees. So that means 180, for example, divided by tan 20 degrees is the same as 180 times tan 70 degrees. If I say 25 divided by tan 40 degrees, that's the same as 25 times tan. Just subtract 40 from 90 and you get 50. That's 25 times tan 50 degrees. But this only applies to tangents. The reciprocal of the tangent of an angle is the same as the tangent of the complement of that angle. So this simply means tan 63 degrees. You check your table of tangents for that. Tan 63 degrees is 1.9626. 9626. And that means, and when you multiply that by 180, 1.9626 times 180. When you multiply that by 180, you have 353.268. And I want to approximate that to 2 decimal places. And it's going to be 353.27 centimeters. Therefore, the shadow of a man is 353.27 centimeters long. 353.27 centimeters long. And that's it, very, very simply. I leave you with this exercise. We have only taken examples on angle. We have only taken examples on elevation. Maybe in our next class we take examples on depression, angles of depression. And that means, okay, now here, let me give you an exercise on that, and it's also going to be on angle of elevation. And this is it. The angle of elevation, number one. The angle of elevation. When you hear elevation, that means somebody is looking at the top, at a point above the ground, from the ground. Somebody is looking at the top of something that is standing on the ground. The angle of elevation of the top of a tower. The top of a tower from a point 42 meters away. This is describing where the person is standing, where they are looking at the top of a tower from, away from its base. We already said elevation implies that somebody is looking at the top of something, and that person is standing on the ground, of course, away from its base on level ground. Is 36 degrees. Find the height of the tower. So this person is 42 meters away from the foot of the tower, away from the tower, and is looking at its top from that point at an angle of elevation of 36 degrees. Now they want us to find how tall the tower is, which is the height of the tower. Find the height of the tower. The angle of elevation of the top of a tower. Of the top, I think I omitted that. Of the top. of the top of a tower from a point 42 meters away from its base. From its base on level ground is 36 degrees. Find the height of a tower. Now, number 2. This is question 2. What's going to be question 2? I want it to be angle of elevation. Yeah, I want that to be on angle of elevation. The angle of elevation, of the sun. This is very similar to the example we did to somebody is looking at the sun from a point on the ground. Is 45 degrees. A tree has a shadow 12 meters long. Find the height of the tree. So that's it simply. I'm sure you'll find the questions pretty cheap. We'll go to angle of depression, God helping, in our next class. So thank you very much and see you in the next. Bye.